Hello and welcome to the Newsroom with Sana. Today we're going to take a look at a number of key stories happening around the world. The first is with reference to what is happening in Washington, D.C. With a suspect of shooting against the National Guard, in which two members of the National Guard have been injured. And this is, of course, something that is very alarming to what is going on in the United States and brings up a lot of questions with regards to the Trump administration's decision of deploying the National Guard, of also the ways in which immigration policies are being implemented, and of course in the aftermath of which there seems to be an increased way forward of how exactly immigrants, particularly those coming in from Afghanistan, are going to be treated, since the suspect is of Afghan origin, has previously worked with the CIA, also with the CIA director claiming that this is precisely why these people should not be allowed in the United States. So we're going to be taking a closer look at what that means and what will be the result of this particular incident. Next, we're going to take a look at what is happening in Gaza. Despite the U.S. brokered ceasefire and peace deal on the 10th of October, we have seen reports coming in of ceasefire violations as many as 500, with now Amnesty International also reporting that this is not a ceasefire, it's a continuation of genocide, and there has been no ways in which they have seen any change of intent by Israeli authorities or any actions taken as per the ceasefire. And so this, of course, points towards the larger discussions around how exactly peace will be implemented within Gaza, with world leaders also talking about the second phase of putting forward an international force on the ground. But at the same time, it seems that the current conditions on the ground are not even complete with regards to the first phase and what is necessary. That's going to be our focus in the second segment. And thirdly, we're going to take a look at what has happened in Hong Kong, the deadly fire that has resulted in the deaths of about 75 people, with injuries to many others, is being blamed by police authorities on poor scaffolding and construction workers, 3 of whom have also been arrested. And this is, of course, something that points to the larger concerns of how exactly these measures are going to be taken and the ways in which these materials are being used quite often in Hong Kong in the construction of these buildings. That's going to be our focus at the end of the show. For our first segment, with regard to what is happening in the United States and Washington, D.C., and what will be the result of this on how the Afghan immigrants in particular are going to now be treated by the United States. We've been joined by Mr. Sajid, who's political analyst from the U.S. Thank you very much, Sajid, for being part of the show. I'd like your take on how you think this particular incident is being perceived at the moment. Of course, it's very, very unfortunate and it is condemnable that any such attack is taken place, but it is by an Afghan national who was allowed entry into the United States because he previously worked with the CIA. And because we've seen a lot of these discussions around these sentiments happen in the US previously also, how do you think this incident is now going to be perceived, and what would that mean for particularly Afghan immigrants and immigrants in general?
Thank you for having me, but it's a Thanksgiving today in the United States. People celebrating Thanksgiving. They are thanking God for their blessings. And what a tragic way to have a Thanksgiving, especially when the soldiers, 2 soldiers, those have put their life on line for our safety, and they have suffered, they have been killed. Unfortunately, it's by the Afghan immigrant. And one point there that he has made it. It's not only in Washington, D.C. Everywhere they go, it seems like they are troublemakers, not only in the Washington, D.C. If you see in the Europe, people are sick of them. There are people, some countries are taking some measures to cancel their citizenships and send them back. Look at Pakistan. They have stayed in Pakistan for 40 years. Their foreign minister, Mr. Muttaqi, was in Karachi. His brother was there. Mullah Umar's son, Mullah Yaqub, he grew up in Pakistan, went to the local schools, and what they're doing with Pakistan. So the one point they have made it clear today that they are not worth trust. They are not trustworthy people. They are troublemakers, and they are thankless. Wherever they go, they create issues for the local community.
Sajid, don't you think that we're generalizing a little bit here? Because even when we talk about the decisions and measures taken by Pakistan, they have been taken against those Afghan nationals that have entered into Pakistan or have stayed in Pakistan with illegal documents. There was a huge timeline that was given to legalize their documents and to give their proof of identities, but those that did not have them were the only ones who were sent back to the country. And so this is not something that will apply to a national of any particular country in general. Not everyone can be categorized under the same umbrella.
I wanted to clarify the Mr. Rahmanullah Lakhanwal came here legally. He was given a status for 2024. Mullah Muttaqi, who's a foreign minister of Afghanistan, went to Pakistan legally. At the same token, the Mullah Yaqub was there legally. It's not a legal, illegal. It's a mindset of them. This was not a solution. If the Mr. Rahmanullah Lakhanwal had some issue with the immigration or any policies, he would have left the country. He would have gone somewhere else. But taking the, taking the law and order in your hand and making a decision.
I totally understand that, Tarar, but not everyone is Rahmanullah. That's the point I'm making.
I agree, but what they are doing with Pakistan, what they are doing in Europe, and not only this, is similar. Even in some of the second generation Afghani kids, they have taken law and order in their hand. I mean, I still remember a few years back there was a mass shooting in one gay club, and the guy was a second generation from Afghanistan. There was one Afghani got arrested in Manhattan carrying a bomb. So the thing is a mindset. What is in Pakistan? I mean, so look at this. Every other suicide bomber is from Afghanistan. Why they're going after it? It's a certain mindset. We have to condemn it. We have to take the measures.
Absolutely, we definitely condemn the mindset. But my question is whether this mindset will apply openly to all, because this is what then will inform the policy choices that any country makes, in particular the United States make. What is your solution to this matter? Do you think that would mean just applying a blanket policy over all immigrants of Afghan origin?
No, before I give you a solution, I wanted to tell you, I should not even then blame Mr. Rahmanullah Lakhanwal. I should blame the Biden administration. Remember when they were leaving, when they were withdrawing from Afghanistan, whoever was nearby the airport, they just put them on a C-130 and brought them here. A Republican lawmaker and legislators, they were crying even then that time that there was no veteran check process in effect. And same thing here today. The solution is this, that we have to vet all the Afghanis who those are here, and we have to do some kind of testing on them, what kind of mindset, either they're jihadi, either they're depressed, either they're suicidal. So what is going on? I mean, say either they have a PTSD, or plus at the same time we have to enforce some kind of policy in the future. Whoever wants to come here on a political refugee, they should stay here while they have issue, and after that they have to send back to their countries, not instead of giving them the citizenships and bringing the whole village here. That's not working. And plus, at the same time, we have
Sajid, there's also what the CIA director just said, and he's echoing similar statements where he's saying that this is why these citizens should never have been allowed in the United States. But they went through a proper procedure, their War Operations Alliance program that the U.S. launched, under which they vetted these nationals, including Rahmanullah, and allowed him entry in 2021 because of his work with the CIA. So now when we put forward and extend this logic to other nationals or to other immigrants, or possibilities of anyone actually undergoing such scrutiny and then still committing such crimes, how then will you ensure that those people entering into the United States, be them of any origin, will not indulge in these terror attacks?
Matter of fact, Donald Trump has a mandate to secure this country, secure the borders, and not only this, deporting those people, those have come here illegally, criminally. So that is, the measures are already taken in place. Rahmanullah Lakhanwal ultimately had issues, and many Afghanis, those came here, those were not gone through the vetting process. So they already taken the measures to secure the United States of America. But in the last 12 years, this was the policy: open borders, and whoever wants to come here, they used to give them the airline tickets. So that has to stop. It has stopped.
Absolutely, I totally understand that, Tarar, but my question was that even those, as you said, that have been allowed entry through legal means, such as Rahmanullah, have the possibility of indulging in these terror attacks and crimes, as we have seen evidently in this case. So I want to understand then, how exactly will that surety and security that you're mentioning be given in a case where legally the people who are allowed legal entry still indulge in these crimes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so, as earlier I was telling you, they should have some kind of a testing a mechanism in effect to check either they have a PTSD or either they are jihadi, either they agree with American policies or American lifestyle. Otherwise, they should be admitted.
Surely that was done once we've seen him being allowed working with the CIA and then being allowed entry after the US troop withdrawal in Afghanistan. Surely they must have done those checks.
They must have done. I mean, say, but still, this is Rahmanullah is not a first or last person. Matter of fact, I have seen many Afghanis here. You will be surprised. I mean, most of them they haven't gone through the vetting process, and we were scared. We are scared. This is not the first thing they have done or last thing. You will see in the future because this is a new norm wherever they go. I mean, look at the Afghanis, third generation living in Pakistan and still hate Pakistan. How would you solve that? I mean, how are you going to come? How are you going to fix that? They're third generation born in Karachi. They hardly speak Afghani language or Pashto or Persian, but they hate Pakistan. So it's
Absolutely,
a
Tarsa,
certain
but
mindset.
like I said earlier, this is not anything to do with sentiment. This is about legal or illegal entries that was carried out by Pakistan, and the measures that the country has taken is based on illegal documentation. But of course, this is essential in terms of what needs to be done, and what the United States needs to do is perhaps far more than that too, in terms of actual scrutiny and not blanket policies. For this, we've also been joined by Mr. Arif Ansar, who is Chief Analyst at POLITACT, an institute in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Arif, for being part of the newsroom. I'd like your take on what the recent shooting against the National Guard represents in terms of policy decisions taken by the Trump administration or even the Biden administration, and what would that mean for such policies in the future? Are we going to see stricter control on immigration by Trump, and are we going to see nationality-specific control in the United States?
Thank you, Sana, for having me. And yes, this is a critical question. But let me state up front that we don't know the motive yet. So this is all being investigated. So we shouldn't jump to any conclusion as this is being investigated. We don't know the motive, and obviously the incident has happened. The gentleman Rahmanullah Lankanwala had come under the Operation Allies Welcome program, through which many of other Afghans have come in. I think the number is close to 77,000. And then Rahmanullah belonged to the category that he had helped U.S. forces and other agencies in Afghanistan, so that he was in a different category. But let me add a caveat that we have seen other incidences where veterans have had difficulty when they came back to the U.S. and assimilating back into the society. So like I think, like Mr. Tarar mentioned earlier on, that it could be PTSD, or he may have developed some other grievances afterwards, after he moved in. There is no doubt he helped the U.S. forces in Afghanistan. That was the reason he came in. As you know, in many cases, U.S. veterans or forces that were in Afghanistan, they have vowed and sponsored some of their Afghan comrades to be immigrated to the U.S. as well. One bad apple doesn't mean that all of them are bad. There is obviously, when this kind of incident happens, all immigrants become suspects, especially belonging to the areas of the world where we are facing extremism. People fear that this would, result in a backlash, making it tougher for all immigrants. Mr. Trump, President Trump, has been tough on immigrants and specifically Afghanistan. That what was the vetting criteria that was used to bring them in, and that all is probably going to be reviewed. And as was mentioned earlier on, and has been announced, the program has been stopped from Afghanistan. But I think it's a little premature to jump to any conclusion before we see the results of what transpired, what led to this tragic event.
Absolutely. And Arisab, there's also discussions around the deployment of the National Guard across Washington as well. We've seen, of course, that there has been an emergency measure that has been invoked by the U.S. administration, but there was some sort of opposition that we have seen by the courts also in this regard, with many, even after this incident, criticizing these deployments. What would you like to say about that, and whether or not that will change the situation and the city would be able to fight the fact that this deployment is not legal?
So that's the other, point of view, that putting the, the National Guards in the harm way in the first place, that were they needed, was the security situation so bad in the Washington, D.C. or in the capital? They have been used in other places in the United States as well. So as you mentioned, it's controversial because the other side would, argue that the situation was not bad in Washington, D.C. We didn't need National Guards deployed over here. Now they are being increasing. So their presence, armed presence in some cases, creates kind of a, atmosphere that could result in putting the National Guard in situations which they should not be. And obviously by training, police and other civil services are more uh, prepared for dealing with these kinds of civil situations. But nonetheless, this is the policy. Now they have been, announcement of more troops being put in, and the controversy and the legal aspect of it is going to, become more pronounced, and more, we'll hear more debates about it. Obviously, there is another political angle to it, that it's some kind of a long-term strategy by President Trump to involve the National Guard in the military, in the domestic affairs of United States, as a prerequisite to some future, disturbances that he could then use, or President Trump may have a grievance from the past during his first term, when he wanted to use the military and was not allowed to. So all of this is playing out in the American political system.
Right. Sajid Sab, I want your take on this too. Do you think that the deployment of the National Guard so extensively is justified, with many criticizing that we're putting the National Guards in danger?
Yeah, let me give you an example. The city I'm speaking from, right now it has a 500 vacancies from the police department, and it's an open drug markets. You hardly can pass through the city during the daytime, and at the same time, this city and the state is run by the Democrat Party since last 60 some years, especially Baltimore City. But each time Donald Trump asked him that I'm going to send the National Guard there to secure, to make a citizen's life safer, it has been refused. And they said it's against our freedom. And plus, at the same time, if the citizens are dying, this is a responsibility. Keep in your mind that Donald Trump received 7 swing states. He received a mandate from the 7 swing states even then. Then the people are sick and tired of the law and order. Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Washington, D.C., all of them, they are open drug markets and run by the Democrat Party, and they have no solution. You're talking about a solution. Barack Obama and Joe Biden, they were against, they were doing the police defunding. They wanted to abolish the police department. Barack Obama came up with the philosophy of self-policing, and then having a National Guard, open arms. Do you want drug dealers to run those cities? And here in Washington, D.C., situation was this. During the Joe Biden administration, her grandson's security guards, and those were FBI agents, some of the drug dealers took the car on the gunpoint. So this is what the situation Donald Trump received. Last 12
I
years
totally
of this.
understand that security of the citizens is priority, and as it should be of any administration in any country. But what I want to understand here is that while we talk about the solution and a necessary one being there for the security of the citizens, is it also a legal one, which is what I want to understand.
So the thing, plus at the same time, the environment is so dangerous that nobody wants to join. First of all, police need to step up and do it. But if nobody wants to join the police, what kind of solutions you have? And ultimately, the case is in the courts, and the courts right now they are Republican. They must be leaning towards Republican ideology, or they want to make this country great again. At the same time, last 12 years was enough, internal and external. Look at the whole world is burning due to the last 12 years period. What Obama has done to the country and to the world.
Right, Arif Sab, I would like your take on this because there's a lot that, of course, the courts are discussing in terms of what really is going to be in the powers of the president, what is in the power of the Congress, and what is in the interest of the United States. And this is, of course, just one aspect of that as well. There are others, including what constitutes as an emergency measure. And so I want your take in terms of your understanding as to what previous administrations has done, what the requirement is as per the security and law and order situation, as Tarar Saab was saying. Do you think that this constitutes as an emergency response absolutely required in the United States?
So, Sana, this has gotten intertwined in the political debate within the United States. So, obviously, there is both sides of the angles. Like Mr. Tarar was saying, he was representing the Republican point of view. There will be a Democratic point of view as well, which he alluded to as well. But obviously, it's a political system, and both sides will be debated. And like you mentioned, this is the legal system as well, in which the Republican may have a heavy hand. So we'll see how it transpires. But nonetheless, this is transpiring in the American political system, as you just mentioned. President Trump uses the executive authority or executive orders for many of these kinds of decisions. He often bypasses the Congress because it seems like it gets bogged down in the Congress. So if it is, and we're seeing this security dilemma playing out in case of Venezuela as well, where we have some of the suspected drug boards have been attacked, people have been killed as well, and that's playing out as well under this broader gamut of the security of the United States, the immigrants making America great again. So obviously one has to look at through the political system. There is the Democratic position, there is a Republican position, and when comes the election time, and there is obviously the legal side of it, and that decides the legality of it. But my point is that this has gotten intertwined in the political debate and the various aspects of what is, what are the key principles or values that are going to make America great again. And security is definitely one aspect of it, domestic security as well as foreign security. But obviously we are seeing another tangents of them as we see as it relates to the H-1B visa program as well. The economic side of it, that the tariff side of it, that making America great, again, is premised on the principle that that people have exploited United States, and President Trump has mentioned that specifically as well. And Mr. Trump's policies are now to fix that and tilt it towards the favor of America, as we have seen in the economic realms as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Arif Ansar Saab and Sajid Saab, for joining us and being part of the newsroom, sharing your views as to what really is on in Washington, D.C. at the moment in the aftermath of the shooting against National Guard, in which 2 of the members have been injured. And this, of course, points to the larger concerns of what really is going to be implemented in terms of immigration policies and whether or not we can see increased stringent measures in the United States with maybe more National Guards deployed across the country. Next, we're going to be taking a look at what is happening in Gaza. The genocide is reported to be continuing by Amnesty International, that says that because we have seen about 500 violations of the ceasefire, perhaps does not constitute as a ceasefire and is a continuation of the genocide, with Israel showing no real intent or no real clarity in terms of actions taken as per the ceasefire agreement, and the way that these particular violations are continuing, it seems that this is what really is happening on the ground. For this, we've been joined by international law expert and analyst Syed Muaz Shah and former ambassador Dr. Jamil Khan. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the newsroom today. I'd like to start with you, Mr. Muaz, with reference to what is going on. We've, of course, welcomed the very important peace deal on the 10th of October. It's an encouraging step forward in terms of what has been agreed on paper and, of course, needs to be implemented in a full spirit. There was a lot of of celebration for a ceasefire to take place so that aid can flow in and the people can get much deserved respite. But none of that really seems to be happening at the moment, given that about more than 500 violations have taken place. And so I'd like your expert opinion on, when we have a ceasefire that has been violated more than 500 times, what does that mean in terms of what is happening on ground, and what does that call for in terms of action?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is an important issue, and you brought up this important element that it is truly a ceasefire. A lot of commentators been suggesting this is more you cease and I will still fire, and unfortunately, that's what it's come out to be. And this Amnesty International report in particular, as you have also highlighted in the initial comments, clearly shows this aid that you mentioned is not even coming. There's almost an estimate of this report that for the past month, since October 10th to November 13th, 6,480 metric tons of aid have been stopped by the Israeli authorities. So the aid is not reaching. Over 650 medical need medicine that's required, more than half of that are empty within Gaza. And so what Amnesty International was actually doing in this report is basically illustrating that Israel is still has genocidal intent. And they focus particularly on the aspect of the conditions of life that they have put pressure on the Palestinian people that has resulted in these circumstances. And as you know, winter is around the corner, and the needs of people for basic survival is essential. And there are many families who are not just without shelter and homes, but without winter clothing as well. And no reasonable movement of their improvement has happened. In fact, there was even a mention in the report about 16,000 Palestinians who are in need of extreme medical care, and they have not been able to actually get that, which actually means that if you're preventing that aid from reaching to help those people, you're essentially willing them to die. And that's why genocidal intent is still on the books as per Amnesty International's report.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Muaz, stay with us and I'll come back to you with more. Dr. Jamil, there is a lot of concern as to what can be done now given the current situation. And so in your perspective, when we have countries coming together and brokering this very important peace deal, and now with many also talking about a second phase of an international force being deployed on ground, do you think that we're taking a look at what is happening realistically on ground? Can we truly move into the second phase without not really completing the first one? And there's a lot of modalities and clarity that still remains as to what exactly will that force look like, how will it be deployed, especially in the current circumstances, and who all are going to be part of it. So I want your take in terms of when we see these discussions and these actions, are these the right discussions that we should be having at the moment, given what is happening on ground?
Well, these are the right concerns and these are the right discussions and debates because it's a matter of concern for the entire world, because Gaza is one conflict that if it is not really addressed, as per the 20-point plan, which everyone has accepted, and now it has become an international law, while it was once it has been endorsed under Security Council Resolution 2803. So it's now an international law. And although it's a unique kind of an arrangement in this international law, where this resolution has been endorsed and passed by the Security Council. Yes, it's a matter of concern because the violation of those 20 points, although it has not been completely in place, because the Board of Peace, which is the main the umbrella for the governance of the Gaza, and main umbrella which could ensure all these 20 points. It has not been commissioned completely. So that could be one of the weaknesses, and that weakness is being exploited by Israel. Israel would definitely like to exploit it. They are trying to mount maximum pressure. As what happens is that winning force or the two conflicting forces, they try and assert a lot before a complete ceasefire. Although it's a complete ceasefire endorsed, but Israel still is trying to exploit some of the loopholes. 3 points only has been completed in its letter in the spread, and those are the immediate ceasefire and the violation, as you said, 500 times, and I'm coming on that, how to address that point. And then hostage release completed, except for two dead bodies, which has yet not been recovered from Gaza, the Israeli dead bodies, and the prisoners exchange to greater extent. The rest of the points have yet not been addressed. One of the points which was to be implemented was the humanitarian aid, and that was to be done immediately after the ceasefire, which Israel deliberately is not really allowing them to happen. All the international aid agencies, they are making all the hue and cry, and today we have seen Amnesty International what statement have they issued, and a very strong statement. You have highlighted some of the points, and rest of a few points I'll also like to address that. So why they are not doing it? They are still trying to just show the Gazan people that they are the one they are calling the shot. They are the one they can come back anytime. They are the one they are committing genocide still, because 500 violation, almost scores of people, 500 the Palestinian they have so far killed. So and then also one thing very trickily, they have started allowing Palestinians to fled from the Gaza, and they have been flying those aircrafts to unknown place, and it touches down to Kenya, and from there it goes to South Africa without telling them, without informing them. So what does it indicate to the world? They still, the Israelis still feel that the Palestinian would really be sick and tired of their life, because there's hardly any life there, no infrastructure, no aid, no water sanitation, in such a scorching, in such a harsh weather they are facing, and with the rain and with the cold. Probably Israeli might have been thinking that, okay, quite a few of them would really fled, and anyways, and that's what their aim is. They wanted ethnic cleansing, and they still probably have not given them. Now, what the world should do, there is a complete template. There is as I said, Security Council resolution, and then these 8 countries plus the entire world can now bring in a resolution. This is the time, China and Russians included, bring in the resolution to Security Council that despite the ceasefire, which has been the resolution has been passed, as I said, 2803. And it's been so there could be another resolution to bind Israel, and if Israel doesn't really accept that, China and Russia can support bringing in a resolution under Chapter 7. So far in the history of Palestine, no resolution has been passed under Chapter 7, which means a binding resolution, and likewise no resolution has been passed under Chapter 7 for Kashmir. So unless that is done, probably a country like Israel. But this time, I can have a little hope, because the second part of your question, you said ISF, the International Stabilizing Force. They have been mandated, in fact, to oversee the security and facilitate the training of the Palestinian police, at that stage. So the coverage of security would mean that at least the security would be provided to those trucks which are lined up for bringing the humanitarian aid.
Dr. Jamil, what I want to understand, as you mentioned, with the ISF in particular, I want to understand whether or not when we speak about the Board of Peace or the ISF being put on ground, is that a viable way forward in terms of actually ensuring peace, given the current scenarios? If there is no real ceasefire on ground, we've seen what the dire situation is. Will the ISF even be ready to be put on the ground, and will that really be effective in the way that it is envisioned to be? And secondly, you mentioned Chapter 7, if it hasn't been invoked yet, previously also and the aspect of Kashmir, as you're pointing out, what would be the difference in this current situation, and what exactly will be in the power of the UN to enforce it?
No, this is, as I said, a unique arrangement of Security Council. Never before in the history it has happened that Security Council would allow a Board of Peace. I have been part of transitional administration of East Timor under Security Council, or the United Nations, the transitional administration in East Timor. I was part of it. And that was a very structured resolution in which everything was given, and we did do the transition, and we did hand over the entire sovereign country to the people of that country after bringing in everything, the infrastructure and the government governance system. We governed for about 2 years. 2 years in East Timor. So this is a unique arrangement where the most powerful president of the most powerful country is heading this board of peace. So United Nations in this situation was not able to implement whatever resolutions were passed, and United Nations could not even pass the resolution back in last year, November, once the ceasefire was. As a matter of fact, the resolution was passed and the first phase was implemented, and immediately it was violated, and nothing could happen. But at least the entire world understands that if the United States withdraws from its support from Israel and withdraws its warships around Israel in the Mediterranean Sea, then Israel would not have that much of a strength. And then, more importantly, these 8 countries who are part of that board of peace, as where President Trump has already announced, they can also assert, and they are asserting, as a matter of fact. In fact, it was only day before yesterday that Hamas has said that we need, as agreed, we need a safe corridor to leave the Gaza, those who want to leave. And Israelis are still, profiling the Hamas fighters, and then they are killing them. So at least there is some platform where the Hamas, they are raising their point, because the world has only two choices.
I'll explore this further. I'll come back to you on this further, Dr. Jamil, because it's important. I also want Muaz's opinion on the matter. Muaz, with reference to what we have seen, particularly in terms of the ISF or in terms of the Board of Peace, or even what the UN has in its power, I want to understand that while we talk about how there is a lot of legal obligation, or there is law at hand now that has been invoked, but in terms of actual implementation of enforcing that law, or even in terms of violation of those laws, what really is in the capacity of the United Nations, in the capacity of the different countries who brokered this deal to hold accountable those that violate the law? Because we have seen previously also that while this deal is there to, of course, help the people of Gaza, we've seen so many violations, there has been no consequence. And so what really will be in the power of the ISF or the Board of Peace or even the United Nations to ensure something can really happen? Who truly has the power to do that?
I'm glad you asked that question, because earlier, about 2 weeks ago, the very professor whose work is being used to put this board of peace together, this mechanism, has criticized that it is against international law what's going on now with the American proposal. And the main reason, what the key reason is, I don't want to get too much into legal technical details, but the Palestinian representation is a big question. Look, one of the most basic rights of any people is their self-representation, their right to be heard, and how is the Palestinian voice to be heard in this? And unfortunately, I know there's some optimism about the ceasefire and with the peace board, but there's been some action from the Americans that has been concerning. One thing that has come out since yesterday is this ban or potential ban on the Muslim Brotherhood, which Hamas is, as we know, associated with. What is the links to this? As we know, there were certain other countries pushing this type of agenda, particularly the United Arab Emirates. But what does this all mean? What does it all mean about the future of Palestinian voice in this? As you know, the last election that the Palestinians had back in 2005, they overwhelmingly elected Hamas to represent them politically. Now, we can debate about the different elements to this, because this is a different issue. But when we talk about law, when we talk about the right to self-determination, the Palestinian voice needs to be heard in this board. That's the main issue. And even the professor, whose work is being used to put this together, has critiqued that this whole setup is actually against international law because of this missing mechanism. Now, there has been a proposal that there's a gentleman that's locked up in Israeli prison, Mr. Barghouti, who can potentially be a unifying force for the Palestinian people to be heard and to have the right to be heard. This is something that the Israelis have been open against not to engage. And for what reason, we don't know, but this could be the key solution to get a Palestinian voice that the Palestinians actually respect and recognize. We know the Palestinian Authority, Abu Mazen, he's in his 80s and he's not going to be here. And there isn't a transition plan. So, like Sir mentioned, in East Timor, there has to be work towards some sort of framework to allow the Palestinians to have their voice to be heard. How that will be done, and only then can we actually get that international law will actually back up this sort of force. Now, temporarily, definitely to create that ceasefire, but as Sir also mentioned, there's 50% of Gaza that's still occupied by Israel. So when is that going to empty out? When are we going to get past to the other 20 some odd points? We've only gone to three. And even Hamas is suggesting that this is really putting a lot of pressure on them. And what I really would hate to see is that Hamas lose control and we get more extremist elements. As we've seen in some of the first days of the ceasefire, Hamas had to fight back and take control because some areas have gotten lawless. And so even President Trump realized that, hey, if Hamas loses its grip, then we might have a even worse situation. So this is something that I'm really concerned about the security of Gaza and having the Palestinian voice being heard in this world.
Right. Thank you very much, Marshall, for joining us and being a part of the newsroom. Dr. Jamil, my last question to you would be with reference to whether or not you see the same kind of resolve or enthusiasm that we had seen previously come in from various countries in the international community, most notably the United States, in resolving the issue in Gaza and ending the genocide there. It seems that there was a lot of impetus in terms of brokering this peace deal, but since the 10th of October and the situation that exists right now, do you think that it is being pursued with the same kind of passion and spirit that it was in the past, especially with involvement of the United States? It's important because they seem to be the only ones having any kind of influence over Israel.
Very much so, in fact. And I would say that the United States has a lot to lose. In fact, their entire image, the foreign policy image, is at the stake. And more importantly, Donald Trump's image itself is at the stake. Donald Trump wants to go into the history, as he has said it himself, to be a peacemaker. And on Gaza peace plan, he really worked very hard. No, I could criticize so many points on Gaza peace plan, but I ask a question to myself, and that question is: was there something required to stop this genocide, at least temporarily, if not permanently for now? So my question is: yes. The further genocide and slaughter was stopped because more than 3,000 people were trapped, 300,000 people were trapped in Gaza, and Israel had already announced that they are going to massacre them because they thought that they all are the terrorists or the supporter of the terrorists. So that was the situation when this peace plan was brought. Now, do they have the same resolve? I personally feel that still I find a resolve in it because this has been brokered after a lot of shuttle diplomacy with Hamas, with Palestinian Authority, with all the 8 countries, with Israel, and with the United States. And with all that shuttle consultation and diplomacy, they brought these points. Although it's tilting towards Israel, I could also say that. But the question is, what is the choice? Whether to go revert back and go to square one, or at least try this 20-point peace plan. And my hope is further augmented once I see that Donald Trump continues to make efforts to bring peace, 28-point peace plan for Ukraine. And next turn, I would not be surprised if it is India and Pakistan resolving the problem of Kashmir. But I just stay on the topic. So yes, there is a resolve. And I personally feel that once the international stabilization force is deployed fully, things I can see would be improved. Yes, there could be a question that Hamas had shown some reservation, but because of the mediators and because of the consultation and where they had agreed with international stabilization force, there are some misunderstandings that would be ironed out because international stabilization force, as the point number 14 goes, which says about stabilization force, it says that they would oversee the security and they would facilitate the training of the police there. It doesn't say that they would demilitarize Hamas. Yes, there is a point about the demilitarization that by Hamas itself. and that there would be some conditions as that has been negotiated. So there are lot many things which has to be fine tuned by the mediators on daily basis. And then my understanding is that once the international stabilization force is deployed, it would not be so easy for the Israel to violate all these ceasefire violations, because there would be the deployment of 8 countries, and not only that, that would be overseen by the most powerful president of the most powerful country, and therefore I have my hopes. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jamil, for joining us and being a part of the newsroom today. These are, of course, essential aspects that we want to cover with reference to what really happens in the future in Gaza. But it is unfortunate that despite the first phase of the peace deal, we haven't really seen respite for the people of Gaza, and there needs to be some accountability for that. Lastly, we're going to take a look at what is happening in Hong Kong. There is, of course, a lot of discussion around what really goes into the construction of buildings, as we see that a huge fire has engulfed and turned into ruins the Wang Fu Court in Hong Kong's Tai Po district, because this is the area where the apartment complex came under fire, and we saw a lot of efforts being done with regards to putting it out, with about 1,200 firefighters and 24 hours taken to do that. The loss of life stands at about 65 at the moment, with many more injured, and there are many others that are still missing. It is important, of course, to see what really is the way forward in this, and what is the cause of such fires that have engulfed this particular building. And it seems to be the bamboo scaffolding and green construction mesh that is part of a lot of these buildings in Hong Kong that took the place and resulted in these widespread fires. There are authorities that have arrested about 3 people involved in the construction, which include the individuals, directors and engineering consultant from the contractor that was part of the construction of this particular building. And the arrests follow allegations that these flammable materials and improper fire safety measures are the cause that contributed to the rapid spread of the blaze. In the public statements, we've also seen that police have pointed out the hazardous use of the bamboo scaffolding and possibly non-compliant mesh and external materials as the key factors behind this disaster. It has also resulted in a wave of public outrage and calls for accountability as the families mourn the deaths of their loved ones. And this is also reigniting scrutiny of building safety standards and high-density housing developments across the territory. The disaster is also being compared to other infamous disasters in other parts of the world, including in London. And these, of course, points towards the measures that need to be taken in order to ensure that such disasters do not take place. That's all that we have from the newsroom today, and we'll be back tomorrow with more news.